All right, take a look at your phone. Check the date. It's Monday, February 2nd, 2026. I really want you to remember exactly where you are right now. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're at the gym.
Yeah.
But just remember this moment.
Okay.
Because this morning,
Yeah.
effectively, the free market for commodities, the way we have understood it for, the last 50 years, it's officially dead.
It's over.
We woke up in a completely different economic reality today. Yeah, that's a big one.
It sounds like hyperbole when you lead with that, but looking at the executive order signed this morning, I don't think you're exaggerating at all.
Not at all.
We are seeing a structural break in how the global economy values raw materials. As of 9:00 a.m. Eastern, we essentially have a Federal Reserve for metals.
That is the headline right there. A Federal Reserve for metals. We've had a central bank for dollars since, 1913.
Right.
Now, finally, we have a central bank for lithium, for cobalt, for rare earth. I've been waiting for this. We've been speculating about it for months, but seeing it actually signed, it's different. It feels heavy.
It is. This is Project Vault. That's the official code name they're using. And it fundamentally changes the risk calculation for every single manufacturer, every defense contractor, and frankly, every investor with a 401k.
And did you catch the phrasing? The president didn't just sign it and walk away.
Yeah.
He gave that whole speech in the Oval Office.
I saw it.
The line that stood out to me, and I guarantee you this is going to be on bumper stickers in West Virginia by Friday, was "Mine, baby, mine."
It was a very deliberate callback, very intentional.
It's a total pivot. For a decade, we heard drill, baby, drill. That was the era of oil. That was the energy independence of the 2010s.
Right, that was the whole narrative.
But oil is yesterday's war. We solved that, kind of. This new directive is about the dope that runs the future. It's no longer just about energy independence. It's about mineral independence.
And it's the logical, albeit aggressive conclusion to the crisis we lived through last year. I think before we get into the mechanics of the vault, we have to pause and contextualize why this has happened.
We'll have to.
The listener needs to remember the visceral pain of 2025.
Oh, I remember. My portfolio definitely remembers.
It wasn't just portfolio pain, though. It was supply chain paralysis. When Beijing effectively turned off the tap on rare earth exports in late 2025, it wasn't a subtle diplomatic move.
Right.
It was a chokehold.
It was brutal. A chokehold is the perfect word. I remember driving past a Ford dealership in November. This was just a few months ago, and the lot was empty. Not low inventory, but empty, like a ghost town. And it wasn't because people weren't buying cars. It was because Detroit literally couldn't finish them.
Exactly. They were missing $50 worth of magnets for the steering columns and the window motors, just little tiny components.
$50.
And because they couldn't get that $50 worth of material, a $60,000 truck couldn't be sold. That right there is the definition of a strategic vulnerability.
And that's when the panic set in. Factories went dark. Layoffs started. It felt like 2008, but for a totally different reason.
A different flavor of crisis.
It wasn't a credit crunch. It was a dirt crunch.
Precisely. That was the wake-up call. The United States government realized that you cannot have a modern economy, and you certainly cannot have a functioning military if your supply chain for critical minerals runs entirely through a geopolitical rival.
We just can't.
The market, the so-called free market, had failed. It failed to price in that national security risk. Efficiency had completely cannibalized resilience, so the government has stepped in to correct it.
And they aren't stepping in with a sternly worded letter or, another tariff this time. They are stepping in with a checkbook, a massive one.
$12 billion.
$12 billion. That is the initial allocation for Project Vault. For anyone listening who cares about where capital is flowing, that is a flashing neon sign.
It creates a floor. That's the key economic concept here. Wall Street has always been hesitant to fund these mines because commodity prices are volatile.
Oh, of course.
You don't want to spend $1 billion building a mine if the price of lithium crashes next year. But when the U.S. government says we are the buyer of last resort, that volatility just dampens.
It essentially de-risks the entire sector. But Wall Street hasn't even begun to price this in yet. I was looking at the pre-market movers this morning, and sure, some mining stocks are up, but they aren't up 300% like they probably should be.
Not yet. They're still processing.
The market is still looking at quarterly earnings. We are looking at a generational shift.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive.
Exactly. Our mission today is to find the new oil. We're going to break down exactly how this vault works, who is filling it, and who is getting rich guarding it.
And perhaps most importantly, we are going to talk about the part of the story that wasn't in the press briefing, the shadow deal.
Oh, this is the stuff that kept me up last night reading that report.
It is the fascinating underbelly of the announcement. While everyone is focused on mines in Nevada or, the DRC, there is a massive capital flow coming from Abu Dhabi.
It's wild.
We're talking about a secret $500 million investment, a direct connection to AI chips, and a very, very strange link to a crypto project.
I know, it sounds like a conspiracy theory board. UAE, NVIDIA, and a crypto token walk into a bar.
It does.
We're going to connect those dots. It turns out that a blockchain might actually be a matter of national security. But okay, let's start with the basics. Let's unpack Project Vault itself.
Let's do it.
So the buzzword in the policy papers you sent me is industrial nationalism. It sounds tough. It sounds serious. But what does that actually mean for the guy digging the hole in the ground?
It means the government is no longer leaving critical supply chains to the whims of the market. I mean, a purely free market, the version of capitalism we've practiced since the 90s, you buy copper from whoever sells it cheapest, period.
Right.
If that happens to be a state-subsidized mine in China that employs, questionable labor practices, the free market says, great, cheap copper.
Right. Efficiency is king. Lowest price wins. Always.
Exactly. But industrial nationalism flips the script. It says, we don't care if the Chinese copper is cheaper. We are going to pay a premium, a distinct markup, to ensure the copper comes from friendly soil or domestic mines.
It's a policy choice.
It prioritizes resilience over efficiency. It acknowledges that cheap things can become very, very expensive if you can't get them during a war.
It's paying extra for the insurance policy.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the structure of this thing. Because looking at the executive order, the government isn't just buying piles of rocks and burying them in a hole in the desert.
No, it's more clever than that.
They've set up something that looks a lot like a business model.
It's a very clever piece of financial engineering, actually. They are calling it a strategic reserve, but the mechanism functions very differently than, say, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
The way I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that they basically built a Costco membership for the Fortune 500.
That is actually a surprisingly accurate analogy. I like that.
Stick with me here. So you have the vault. That's the Costco warehouse. The government puts up the initial capital, the $12 billion, to stock the shelves. They go out and buy the lithium, the cobalt, the magnets. That sits in the warehouse.
Right. That is the inventory, the national stockpile.
But then you have the subscribers. These are the manufacturing giants. We're talking General Motors, Boeing, Google, Ford.
Correct. These are the end users. They rely on these materials to function. If they can't get dysprosium, they can't build an electric motor. If they can't get lithium, they can't build a battery. Simple as that.
So under Project Vault, these companies pay a membership fee. You could call it a carrying cost to the government. In exchange, they get guaranteed access to the material in the vault if the global supply chain breaks again.
Think of it as bankruptcy insurance. That's really what it is. Why would GM pay millions of dollars a year for this membership? It's not to grow their business. It doesn't help them sell a single extra car today.
No, it's a cost. It hurts their margins, technically.
In fact, it does hurt their margins slightly. But it ensures that if President Xi signs another export ban order tomorrow, or if a blockade happens in the Taiwan Strait,
Which could happen any day.
GM doesn't have to shut down the factory like they did in 2025. They can go to the vault, flash their membership card, and get the materials they need to keep the lights on.
It removes the tail risk. It takes the catastrophic scenario completely off the table.
Exactly. And for a CEO, for a board of directors, that peace of mind is worth a lot of money. It stabilizes their stock price because the market knows they are insulated from these geopolitical shocks.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Isn't this just corporate welfare? I mean, why is the taxpayer putting up $12 billion to backstop GM? Shouldn't GM be buying their own extra lithium and storing it in a warehouse in Detroit?
Right. Why isn't this their problem?
Yeah, why does Uncle Sam have to be the warehouse manager?
That's a valid critique, and it's one that the fiscal hawks are definitely making this morning. But the counterargument is really about scale and coordination. Okay.
If every company tried to hoard their own stockpile, you'd create a massive, massive run on the market. Prices would skyrocket, and the smaller players, the ones who can't afford to build their own vaults, would get crushed.
It'd be chaos.
Complete chaos. By centralizing it, the government can smooth out the buying. Plus, there is a national defense component that you can't ignore.
Which brings us to the real winner. Because GM is safe, sure. Boeing is safe, that's great. But let's talk about who really makes out like a bandit in this structure. Because safety is boring. I want to know where the leverage is. And looking at the documents, all roads seem to lead to the defense industrial base.
You have to follow the motivation. Why did the government really launch Project Vault? Yes, to keep cars running and voters happy.
But primarily
Primarily.
to ensure we can build missiles, fighter jets, and drones. The Department of Defense is the ultimate stakeholder here.
Which brings us to Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed Martin is in a fascinating, almost perfect position. Think about the circular nature of this deal. Who is the biggest customer of the U.S. government? The Pentagon.
And who builds the Pentagon's toys?
Lockheed.
Right. The Pentagon creates Project Vault to ensure Lockheed has the materials it needs. So Lockheed's customer, the Pentagon, and its supplier, the Vault managers, are effectively the same entity.
It's a closed loop. It's incredible. It's like a state-sponsored moat around the business. There's no way for a competitor to get in there.
It creates an ecosystem where Lockheed Martin is the ultimate safe play. They are completely insulated. If you are an investor looking for a place to park cash that is backed by the full faith and credit of this new industrial nationalism, you buy the defense contractors.
Yeah.
They are the reason the vault exists in the first place.
So Lockheed is the fortress. That's your defensive play. If the market crashes, Lockheed probably holds up because the government needs them to exist. It's a matter of national survival.
Exactly. It is the too big to fail logic applied to the supply chain.
Okay, so that's the vault itself. That's the warehouse. But I'm a commodity cowboy at heart. You know me. I like the smell of diesel and dust.
I know. I want to talk about the dirt. Because the vault is just a building or, a ledger. Someone has to actually get the rocks out of the ground to fill it.
The feeders.
The feeders. This is where the 10x opportunities are. If the government is writing checks for $12 billion, who is cashing them? Who is actually digging the hole?
There are two main categories here that we need to dissect, copper and rare earths. They are the two pillars of the vault. Let's start with copper.
You have to start with Ivanhoe mines. You just have to.
You do.
Did you see the press conference when Trump mentioned our friends in the mining industry? And then he specifically name-dropped Robert Friedland.
He did, by name.
I had to rewind the clip to make sure I heard it right. That's a huge signal.
It was a very deliberate signal. Robert Friedland is, he's a polarizing figure in some circles. He's flamboyant. He's aggressive.
He's a showman.
But nobody denies he is the greatest mine finder of his generation.
The guy finds elephants. That's what they call these massive deposits in the industry. Elephants.
Yeah.
And Ivanhoe is sitting on the Kamoa-Kakula project in the DRC.
Which is, by a wide margin, the highest grade copper complex on Earth.
I want to dig into that high-grade comment. I hear it thrown around a lot. But for the listener who isn't staring at assay results all day, what does that actually mean? Is it like slightly better dirt?
No, it's not slightly better. It is exponentially better. Think of it this way. Most copper mines operating in the world today in Chile, in Peru, are old. They've been mined for decades.
Right, they're tired.
They're tired. You are digging up a ton of rock, literally 2,000 pounds of rock to get maybe 0.5% copper.
So 10 pounds of copper. 10
pounds of copper for a ton of effort. It's a slog. You're moving mountains to get a handful of wire.
Okay.
Now look at Kamoa-Kakula. They're seeing grades of 5%, 6%, sometimes higher in massive intersects. That means for every ton of rock you move, you're getting 10 times the amount of copper compared to a standard mine.
10 times. That changes the economics completely.
Completely. It means your cost of production is incredibly low. Even if copper prices drop, Ivanhoe makes money. If copper prices go up, they print money. It's the difference between panning for gold dust and just picking up nuggets off the floor.
But here's the rub, right? And here's where the geopolitics comes in. It's in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes.
Historically, that's been a no-go zone for a lot of Western money. It's unstable, it's risky, but Friedland has positioned himself as the architect of the Western supply chain out of Africa.
That is the key. That's his whole play. The U.S. government knows it can't get all the copper it needs from Arizona or Utah. We just don't have enough high-grade deposits left. We are mined out.
Yep.
We need access to the African copper belt. Friedland is the bridge. He ensures that material flows west or at least into friendly stockpiles rather than just flowing east to China.
So if Project Vault is buying copper, Ivanhoe is the feeder. It's the pure play on electrification. You need copper for the grid, for the EVs, for the data centers. Ivanhoe is the fire hose that fills the bucket.
And with the government floor we talked about, the risk of operating in the DRC is somewhat mitigated. The U.S. government is effectively saying, we will buy your output. That gives Ivanhoe the political cover they need to operate.
Okay, so that's copper, the red metal, the boring but essential stuff.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the magic dust.
The magnets.
The magnets. MP Materials.
MP Materials is the critical piece of the puzzle for the United States. They own the Mountain Pass mine in California.
We've driven past it. It's right there off the interstate near the Nevada border. For years, back in the 2000s, it was just this dormant, giant...
This town.
Rusty pipes, empty buildings. Now it's the center of the universe.
It is the only scaled rare earth mine in the Western Hemisphere. That is not an exaggeration. If you want rare earths that don't come from China, they essentially have to come from Mountain Pass. There's no other choice at scale.
And let's be real about the application. We aren't just talking about speakers for your stereo.
Yeah.
You cannot build an F-35 fighter jet without these magnets. You cannot build the electric motor in a Chevy Silverado without these magnets.
Exactly. Without MP Materials, the U.S. military is grounded, literally.
Yeah.
The whole thing stops. That is why, under Project Vault, MP stops being treated like a normal company. It is now a national security asset.
That's a huge distinction for an investor. A normal company can go bust. A normal company can have a bad quarter and get crushed.
Right.
A national security asset cannot be allowed to fail.
Right. The government will prioritize MP's success because they have no other option. They are the most direct bet on domestic independence. If you believe the narrative that the U.S. is decoupling from China, you have to own MP. It is the flagship.
But, and here's where it gets really interesting and really deep in the weeds, I was reading the geological reports on Mountain Pass.
Okay.
It's mostly rare earths, neodymium and praseodymium, NdPr. That's great for EV motors. But
the military.
The military needs the heavy stuff, right?
This is a nuance that most investors miss, and it's absolutely critical. Light rare earths are the bread and butter. They're the bulk. But heavy rare earths, specifically dysprosium and terbium, are the vitamins.
The vitamins, I like that.
You only need a little bit, maybe 1 or 2% of the magnet mix, but without them, high-performance magnets fail.
Fail how? Like, they just don't work.
Heat. They fail because of heat. Standard magnets lose their magnetism when they get hot. If you are building a missile engine or a drone turbine or a wind turbine, things get very, very hot.
Right.
If you use standard magnets, they demagnetize and your missile falls out of the sky. You need the heavies dysprosium to keep them working at high temperatures.
And right now, where do we get the heavies? Don't tell me.
China. Almost 100%. Specifically, the ionic clay deposits in southern China and Myanmar.
That is a terrifying single point of failure. It's even worse than I thought.
It is. And that brings us to the speculation play. The stock that is flying under the radar compared to MP.
Okay.
USA Rare Earth, ticker USR.
USA Rare Earth is a different beast entirely. They aren't in California. They are in Texas.
The Round Top Project.
Everything is bigger in Texas.
You're right.
Including the heavy rare earth deposits, apparently.
Round Top is unique geology. It's not the same rock as Mountain Pass. It naturally has a higher ratio of these heavy rare earth that the Pentagon is desperate for. But the real story with USR isn't just the mine.
No.
It's the strategy. They are doing something that MP is only just starting to do now.
They are going mine to magnet.
Yes. Most miners dig up the dirt, concentrate it, and sell it to a refiner, usually in Asia. USR is saying, no, we are going to mine it in Texas, and we are building a manufacturing facility in Oklahoma to turn it into the actual finished magnet.
That is massive. They aren't selling ore. They are selling the component, the finished product.
Which means they capture more of the value chain. And for the Pentagon, it's a one-stop shop. They don't have to worry about shipping the ore to Malaysia or Japan for processing.
No.
It stays in the American heartland and never leaves the soil.
So if MP Materials is the blue chip miner, the safe bet, USR is the defense speculation.
It is higher risk. I mean, building a mine and a factory at the same time is difficult execution. It's capital intensive, but the government backing reduces that execution risk significantly. They just secured a massive funding package that's directly aligned with Project Vault. This is the specific tool the government is using to break the Chinese monopoly on heavy rare earths.
So we've got the safety in Lockheed. We've got the feeders in Ivanhoe and MP. We've got the spec play in USR. But now I want to lower the lights a little bit.
The insider baseball.
The stuff that isn't in the press release.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned something earlier about a shadow deal.
Yeah.
And when I saw the Wall Street Journal report yesterday, I had to read it twice.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the UAE, we were talking about crypto, and we were talking about AI chips. It sounds completely disjointed.
It does seem random until you follow the money.
Okay, let's start with the money. Because we just said the U.S. government is spending $12 billion on Project Vault. But let's be honest, the U.S. government is broke.
Right.
We are running a deficit. Interest rates are high. Where is the actual liquid cash coming from to backstop this system?
That is the right question. And the answer appears to be Abu Dhabi.
Connect the dots for me. How?
So the report revealed that Sheikh Tahnoun bin Zayed, he's the national security advisor of the UAE and manages hundreds of billions of dollars in sovereign wealth.
So a major player.
A huge player. He secretly invested $500 million into World Liberty Financial.
That's the Trump-backed crypto project, the one that's been all over the news.
Correct. Now, on the surface, that looks like a crypto bet. Maybe he likes DeFi, who knows? But look at the timing.
The timing is always key.
The deal was signed 4 days before the inauguration in 2025. But it was kept totally secret until this weekend, right as Project Vault is announced.
There are no coincidences in Washington? None.
None whatsoever. The analysis, and this is being whispered in every corridor in D.C. right now, is that this is a quid pro quo.
Okay, break down the trade. What is the UAE buying with that $500 million? It's not a crypto token.
No. The UAE has one obsession right now. Artificial intelligence. They want to be the AI capital of the Middle East. They are building massive data centers in the desert. To do that, they need one thing above all else.
NVIDIA chips.
NVIDIA chips, the H200s, the Blackwells, the top-tier silicon that you can't get anywhere else.
But the U.S. has been restricting those exports, right?
Yeah.
The Commerce Department has been very strict about sending high-end chips to the Middle East because they are worried they will leak to China.
Exactly. So the UAE is in a bind. They have the money, but they can't buy the chips. Meanwhile, the U.S. has a problem. We want to build Project Vault, we want to reindustrialize, but we need capital liquidity to float these bonds and projects.
So Abu Dhabi provides the capital via the crypto project. Is that the vehicle?
Here is the logic chain, as I see it. 1. Abu Dhabi injects capital into the U.S. ecosystem via this investment and other channels aligned with the administration's interests.
Okay.
2. That capital helps float the system. It funds Project Vault. 3. In exchange, the export controls on chips to the UAE get relaxed.
It's a pay-to-play on a global scale.
Yeah.
They fund the vault, we give them the chips.
And there is a physical connection, too. You cannot build NVIDIA chips without the minerals in the vault. You need the copper, the gold, the rare earth.
Right, for the circuit boards and everything else.
So Abu Dhabi helps fund the mineral supply chain, which allows the U.S. to build the chips, which the U.S. then sells to Abu Dhabi.
It's a circular economy of power. You can't have the AI without the dirt. And the sheik knows that.
Smart money always understands the choke points. The choke point for AI isn't code, it's energy and minerals. The UAE is securing its access to both.
This brings us to the weirdest part of this whole story, the crypto angle. Because you'd think if Sheikh Tahnoun wanted to send money, he'd just wire it. Why is World Liberty Financial involved? Why are we talking about tokens?
This is where industrial nationalism meets the 21st century. Think about the problem we just described. You have minerals moving from a mine in Texas to a vault to a missile factory.
You're right.
You have foreign capital involved. You have national security risks. You need absolute traceability.
Spreadsheets don't cut it anymore. I can edit a spreadsheet. I can fake a PDF invoice.
Exactly. If I'm the Pentagon and I'm putting a magnet into a hypersonic missile, I need to know with mathematical certainty that this dysprosium didn't come from a banned mine in China. I need provenance. I need a birth certificate for the atoms.
And that is the killer app for blockchain. We've been saying it for years, but now it's actually happening in a real way. Enter
the real-world asset, or RWA revolution. And the company at the center of this specific deal is American Resources Corp, ticker AREC.
I know these guys. They used to be coal miners. Just dusty old coal guys in Appalachia.
That's the old world. They pivoted brilliantly. They realized that their legacy coal waste, the stuff just sitting in piles polluting the groundwater, is actually full of rare earths.
It's recycling on steroids. They aren't digging new holes. They're cleaning up old messes and extracting gold rare earths from it.
Their subsidiary, ReElement Technologies, has developed a way to refine this waste into high-purity magnets. But here is the bridge to the shadow deal.
Okay.
On January 21st, just 2 weeks ago, they minted the world's first utility token for critical minerals on the SUI blockchain.
Okay, hold on. Why the SUI blockchain? Why not Ethereum? Everyone knows Ethereum.
Speed and cost. Ethereum is like a congested highway. It's expensive and slow. SUI is designed for high throughput industrial speed. If you are tracking millions of tons of ore, you need a blockchain that can handle thousands of transactions per second without costing $50 in fees every time you move a pallet.
Okay, so industrial scale, got it. So explain how the token works. It's not like Bitcoin where I just hold it in a wallet and hope it goes to the moon.
No, not at all. Think of it as a digital twin. When ReElement produces a kilogram of neodymium, a token is minted on the SUI blockchain. That token is essentially a digital luggage tag that cannot be removed or altered.
Okay.
It travels with the physical material. When the ore gets sold to a magnet maker, the token moves to their wallet. When the magnet goes to Lockheed, the token moves.
So the Department of Defense can look at the blockchain and see the entire history of that specific atom of neodymium, from cradle to grave.
Exactly. It creates an immutable chain of custody. It proves the magnet is Project Vault compliant. If a magnet shows up at the Lockheed factory without a token, they know it's contraband. They know it might be Chinese.
That is the future.
Yeah.
If you aren't on-chain, you aren't in the supply chain.
That is the direction we are heading. And companies like AREC that are building this infrastructure today, tokenizing the dirt, are sitting on a gold mine. Because eventually, every ounce of material in Project Vault will likely need a digital passport.
It's the convergence of the oldest industry in the world, mining, and the newest crypto. And it's all happening because the government decided the free market wasn't safe enough.
It's a brave new world.
So let's wrap this up. Let's bring it back to the listener who is sitting there, maybe staring at their brokerage account, wondering what to do. The world changed this morning. The rules of the game are different. How do they play it?
We have to categorize the opportunities. We've discussed a lot of complex moving parts, but for an investor, it boils down to 3 buckets.
All right, bucket number 1, let's call it safety.
Safety is the state-sponsored insurance. That is Lockheed Martin, LMT, or General Motors, GM. You aren't buying these for 100% gains in a month. You are buying them because the U.S. government has effectively guaranteed their survival. They are the subscribers to the vault. They have the moat.
Bucket number 2, growth. The feeders.
This is where you want to be if you believe in the commodity supercycle. Ivanhoe Mines, IVN, for copper.
Yeah?
MP Materials, MP for magnets. These are the companies that will physically fill the vault. They have the assets, they have the scale, and most importantly, they have the government contracts. They are the plumbing of the new system.
And bucket number 3, the moonshots. The speculation.
This is for the risk tolerant. This is USA Rare Earth, USR, the pure defense play, betting on the heavy rare earths and the mine-to-magnet strategy. If they pull it off, they become the darling of the Pentagon.
And the other one?
Or American Resources Corp, AREC, the bet on the technology of tracking, the bridge between the physical dirt and the digital ledger.
It's quite a menu, from the Pentagon to the blockchain.
It is, but the common thread is Project Vault. The vault is open. The U.S. government is now the biggest player at the table. As the old saying goes, don't fight the Fed.
And now
that we have a Federal Reserve for metals, don't fight the vault.
Mine, baby, mine. It's going to be the slogan of the decade.
And here's a final thought for you. A little something to chew on. We talked about the UAE spending $500 million to get a seat at the table for AI chips.
Right. A huge sum of money.
If they are willing to spend that much just for access, just to secure the supply chain for the silicon, what does that tell us about what is coming for the next layer of the stack?
The power.
Right.
The energy to run the chips.
Exactly. AI chips are useless without electricity. Massive amounts of it. A single data center for these new chips consumes as much power as a small city. We are digging the dirt to build the chips, but where are we getting the electrons to run them?
The grid is already creaking as it is.
If we think the mineral wars are intense, wait until you see the battle for baseload power. Wait until Microsoft and Google start buying nuclear power plants, which they are already starting to do. The AI energy crisis is the next shoe to drop.
And we actually did a deep dive on exactly that, nuclear, SMRs, the whole grid problem, back in episode 109. If you haven't listened to that yet, go back and queue it up. It explains why Abu Dhabi is so worried about energy security. It's all connected.
Everything is connected. Minerals, chips, energy, capital. Watch the supply chain, and you'll see the future.
The free market is dead. Long live the vault. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious.